Hey guys, and welcome back to another lesson. Today we are going over how to crochet the treble crochet stitch. Now remember that I'm using US terms, so in the UK this stitch is called the double treble. All right, let's get started. To get started with the treble crochet stitch, we're going to start with a chain of 14. Now don't feel intimidated, but the first thing that you'll want to do that's different from the rest is we're going to yarn over our hook 2 times. So what you can do is hold on to your chain with your dominant hand and use your other hand to wrap the yarn around your hook twice. So 1 and 2. And now we have the yarn wrapped around our hook 2 times. And so I've passed the foundation chain back to my non-dominant hand. Now we're going to place our first stitch into the 5th chain from our hook. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Make sure you have your tension pretty tight for this stitch so that your yarn doesn't just fall off. You can also use your finger to hold the yarn on there. So go ahead and put your finger on this yarn and insert your hook into the 5th chain from your hook. Now yarn over and pull up a loop, and you'll have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So we're doing that 3 times, and that's your first treble crochet. Now let's do it again slowly into the next stitch. So we're going to yarn over 2 times, 1, 2, use your finger to hold the yarn on there, and insert your hook into that very next stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and you'll have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that's your second treble. Now again, yarn over your hook 2 times, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. And whenever you're pulling through 2 loops each time, make sure that you're pulling down on your foundation chain just like I've showed you before. It makes it a lot easier to get that yarn through. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And there you go. So I'll continue down the row, going a little slow so you can follow along. Okay, and so that is our first row of treble crochet stitches. Now a quick note, this stitch isn't as common as the rest of the stitches I'll be showing you in this course, but it's still a really great stitch to know because it's one of the basic stitches, and if you ever come across it in a pattern, it's just good to know. It's not usually used on its own, but I haven't come across a pattern where it's used by itself. Usually it's combined with a couple other stitches. So I just wanted to throw that out there. All right, so let's go over this stitch really quick. So this is our first row, and we're going to count by the post because it's so long. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and those 4 chains that we skipped at the beginning do count as a stitch. So we have 11 stitches here. Now, moving on to row 2, we're going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and turn your work. And again, those 4 chains count as a stitch, so we're going to place our first stitch into this second stitch here. So not this one, this one. So to create the treble, we're going to yarn over our hook 2 times, insert your hook into that next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Again, yarn over 2 times, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now on to the next stitch. And remember, whenever you're working this stitch and basically any other stitch, you can use the first row to pull down on your stitches. Don't worry about creating holes in your work. It will almost always go back to the way it looked. And plus, we're just practicing, so just be patient with yourself. Now I'm going to continue treble crocheting down this row, and I'll do it a little bit slow so that you can follow along. All right, and now we're approaching the last stitch, and the last stitch in our row, in this row, will be the top chain from those 4 chains that we skipped. So it'll be this chain here. So yarn over twice, insert your hook into that top chain, and create your treble. All right, and that's it for round 2. So as always, for this practice swatch, we're just going to repeat row 2 until you reach the length that you'd like. Right now, I'm going to continue until I reach row 5, and then we'll go over counting the treble crochet stitch and counting the rows. And then I'll tell you about today's challenge. Okay, so here I have my swatch of 5 rows of the treble crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and tie off my yarn, so just cut your yarn. Remember to yarn over and pull that yarn all the way through and pull tight for that knot. Now I just wanted to go over here. I just wanted to show you this really quick. So whenever you look at it, it doesn't look like my edges are really straight. They look kind of crooked. But what's happening here is because this stitch is so tall, it has lots of space in between each individual stitch. So because of this, whenever you are chaining that 4 at the end of the row, and skipping that first stitch, it creates more of a hole and like a tilt. So if your work looks like this, you're not doing anything wrong. Just make sure that you're counting your stitches and that your stitches are still even. So just like here. So this is our bottom row here. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have 11 stitches. That's how many we started off with. And so let's look at the top and let's count again. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we still have the same amount of stitches. There were no stitches skipped. It just looks a little funky because of how spacey it is. Okay, so now that we have counting our stitches out of the way, let's go ahead and look at our rows. I'm turning down the brightness a little bit just so you can see the definition of each stitch. So here is row 1, and this is the front facing row. So this is what the front side of the stitch looks like. And this is row 2. So this is the back side of the stitch. So we have row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5. And so that's how you count your rows and your stitches for the treble crochet. And whenever you're weaving in your ends for the treble crochet, it's a little bit more difficult because, like I said, there's so much space in between each stitch. So you really just have to wing it. There's no right way to do this. So what I'm just going to do is go down into the stitch, find ways to make it look like it's hidden. And then once I get down to the base of that row, I'm just going to weave my ends through the base of the stitches. Just like that. And like I told you before, not many patterns use the treble crochet as their only stitch. So in the future, if you're weaving in treble ends, you shouldn't have a problem because you can easily weave them into other stitches. So I'm going to weave this other end in, and then we'll talk about your next challenge. All right, so for your next challenge, it's basically going to be the same as every other challenge. You're just going to create a swatch just like this one, except I want you to try to at least get to row 10. That way you have a decent amount of practice with this stitch. Just check out the workbook that's included in this lesson, which is lesson 9. Remember, don't frog your swatch. If you make a mistake, keep going. The more mistakes you make, the better, because then you can learn to understand those mistakes and see why you're making them and how to avoid them in the future. All right, I'll see you in the next lesson.